Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, the hardest working man in show business, the Captain.
It's good to be seen, and it's good to see you.
It's good to be back from vacation, Captain. Great to be back in the garage.
Yeah, I've been showing up every week, waiting for you to show up. You never called. You never wrote.
Well, thanks for holding down the fort for us.
All right, yeah.
Is this show business? I said you're the hardest working man in show business, but is this truly show business? I guess it's a show, and it's our business, but it's probably the lowest form of show business.
Well, it depends on how much we're drinking is the quality of the show business.
We're in a garage somewhere in Ohio. That's where all the magic happens in show business.
We're hiding in Ohio.
We're building our own Tinseltown right here.
Let's get to the beer.
Tonight we are drinking Lil Devil by Alesmith Brewing Company in beautiful San Diego,
Santiago.
Stay classy, California. Garage grade 4 out of 5 bottle caps. Lil Devil is a pale ale, golden color, with clean malt flavors and a hint of tangy hop tones. It also contains Belgian candy sugar, coriander, and orange peel, which adds a twist, making Lil Devil refreshing, quenching, and easy to drink. Not so easy to say.
Right.
And this fabulous brew is brought to us by this fabulous crew. First up, we have William, who says, Captain and Nick. William, surely you mean Nick and the Captain. He says, keep up the awesome job. Great show. That's from William in Cypress, California. Next, we have Karen from Parts Unknown. Thank you, Karen. Oh, and we have a birthday shout out. So big, happy birthday to Lauren Stoico, who is a big fan of our show. Her friend Lauren Diamond asked us to say happy birthday. So happy birthday, Lauren. Next, we have Lindsay and Kevin. They are one of our many husband and wife listeners. We get a lot of that. You know, I think this kind of thing is great. I can just see them now sitting together in their garage
holding
every
hands.
Tuesday night, listening to True Crime Garage, sharing a set of bed phones and feeding each other beer. I mean, it doesn't get any more romantic than that, does it, Captain?
Sure.
So Lindsay and Kevin really want the Captain to say that he likes their jib. So go ahead, Captain.
We like your jib.
Next, we go to Middle Earth in Lake Forest, Illinois, and say hi to Chelsea. Chelsea says that the cut of our jib elevates each and every garage. Thank you, Chelsea. Kinder words have never been spoken. Yeah, and last but not least, we have Amber, who says, thank you for getting me through the boring workday. Shine on, you crazy diamonds. I love a good Pink Floyd reference. Cheers, Amber. So thank you to William, Karen, happy birthday, Lauren. Thank you, Lindsay, Kevin, Chelsea, and Amber for buying us a round of Little Devils this week. And if you want to go and buy us around for next week's show, go to truecrimegarage.com and click on the donate button.
And for everything True Crime Garage, you can check out our website, truecrimegarage.com, and find us on social media. Everything is at True Crime Garage.
All right, Captain, is that enough of the business?
That's enough of the business.
All right, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer, and let's talk some true crime.
Lost Sheriff Station Deputy Shalette, I can help you.
Hi, I'm calling from Geoffrey's restaurant in Malibu.
Yeah.
We have a guest here who is refusing to pay her bill, and we think she sounds really crazy. She may be on drugs or something. We are wondering if someone could come by and pick her up.
Okay, well, what's the address there?
It's 27400 Pacific Coast Highway.
And is she a white, black, Asian, Hispanic?
She's young black girl. She's probably in her 20s.
Okay, what's she wearing?
She's wearing a black T-shirt and I think blue jeans.
Is she with anybody else?
No, it's just her.
I am calling. I'm a little frazzled right now. I understand my daughter is being brought into the station. Mitrice Richardson. Have they made it to the station yet? And she's been booked.
Okay, do you know where she's coming from?
It's some restaurant out in Malibu, and I didn't even think to get the name. The manager's name is...
The only place we have somebody that's in custody that they just announced on the radio that they're coming up is from Geoffrey's in
Geoffrey.
Pacific Coast Highway. It's the only female that's being brought up to the station as we speak. They actually just put it on the radio right before you called.
Okay. I'm her mother, and are you guys going to book her and then release her on her own recognizance tonight? Because it's dark, she doesn't have a car, and I don't want her wandering out. I'm totally just taken aback because this is so out of character for her. And you'll see when she comes in, she's well spoken. I think the only way I will come and get her tonight is if you guys are going to release her tonight. If it's going to be held in custody for some type of arraignment tomorrow, then I will wait until tomorrow. She definitely has no place, I mean, she's not from that area, and I would hate to wake up to a morning report, lost somewhere with her head chopped off, so I guess I would have to come and get her. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we're in Agoura Hills. The only thing is, at least in the station here, she will be separated, so nobody's going to be with her. So at least that's, the plus thing, so you don't have to worry about her safety.
No, I feel safe with her being in custody. It's being released, but I'm worried about it. It's crazy out here.
In 2009, we have a 24-year-old woman who's briefly detained by deputies for not paying her bill at a restaurant. We have no idea why she didn't pay this bill. But the events of this evening probably could not get any stranger, in my opinion. She's detained by the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
She's held there for a couple of hours, and then she's released after midnight. Now, the key here, though, is she's released without a vehicle, without a cell phone, no purse, no money, no provisions, and they just let her off wandering out into the darkness in an area that she's unfamiliar with. She may have been spotted trespassing hours later. We're not convinced, not 100% sure. But shortly after that, if that was her, she disappears.
Yeah, diving into this case this week, it seemed like, when you dive in, you're trying to get some answers. And it seems like all I got was more questions.
Well, I agree with you. When I first dove into this, lots of questions, and I still have plenty of them. And we'll go through all of those as well. But you and I have been looking at this case for over a week now, and I do think we have some answers here that we're going to present tonight. A little background here. Who are we talking about? We're talking about 24-year-old Mitrice Richardson. She grew up in the suburbs east of L.A. with her mom and her stepdad. Her father and grandmother lived in nearby South LA. She graduated with honors from Cal State Fullerton with a degree in psychology in 2008. She had been doing some clerical work for a shipping company, and on Friday nights she worked as a go-go dancer in Long Beach. Now, this was a lesbian club. Her dancing name was Hazel. Now, the day in question here is September 16th, 2009. This is a Wednesday. Maitrice is driving her 1998 Honda Civic down Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah.
When she decides to stop at a place called Geoffrey's. This is regarded as an upscale restaurant near Malibu, so it's a bit of a swanky place. And I hear the big attraction at Geoffrey's is the wonderful views of the Pacific. When she arrives, well, they have valet parking at the restaurant, so we all know the drill, right? You pull up, and sometimes there's a line of cars, and you got to wait for the valet to come up to you and greet you. The valet does come up and greet her, correct?
Yeah.
So he comes up and greets her, and he's got other things to do. He's got other cars to shuffle around, and by the time, this is just within minutes, but by the time he gets back to her car to move her vehicle, she's no longer in the vehicle. And he finds her sitting in his vehicle, of all places. His vehicle is parked nearby, and he said that he had left the door open. But when he discovered her in his car, of course, he wants to know,
why the hell are you in my car?
What are you doing in my car?
Yeah, so, and she seemed to be rummaging through like CDs and stuff, and starts making comments to him about the CDs and stuff that she's finding.
And later he would report, what she was wearing. And he described her as wearing a Rastafarian style hat, a long sleeve white shirt under a black Bob Marley short sleeve shirt. And she was wearing, like distressed jeans, or I don't know, maybe they were tore up jeans with Vans shoes.
Those are the same thing.
And a pink belt. The valet asked her, of course, what she's doing in his car, and she replies, "It's subliminal."
What does that mean?
Well,
It's subliminal.
That's now my answer for any time I get caught doing something strange.
Subliminal, man.
And then this is not real clear, but she also says something about she's avenging the death of Michael Jackson, who, so this is 2009. Michael Jackson died June 25th, 2009, but still a very strange thing to say. She does give him the keys and then ask if Vanessa is here. The valet does not know whom Maitrice is asking about. She told him to keep an eye out for a girl with tattoos on her arm.
Strange thing to say to somebody that you don't know or that doesn't know Vanessa, and then you go into Geoffrey's and then you ask for a table for one, not a table of two, but anyways, strange. Then you sit down, you order steak and some wine, and you enjoy your meal.
She's inside. She's sitting alone. She orders a cocktail. She orders a steak. And nearby her, there's a table of 7. And she goes over to the table and she sits down and joins in the conversation. She does return to her table at some point to eat, but then goes back again to the 7-top and sits down. Maitrice tells them she is going to Hawaii and she would contact them when she arrives. The 7 diners leave Geoffrey's, and shortly after, Maitrice goes to leave as well, and the manager confronts her about her unpaid dinner tab. And this is amounting to a grand total of $89.
Yeah, expensive place.
And Maitrice states that the other table should have covered her check. The manager tells her that this is not the case. They didn't cover it, and she is responsible. And Maitrice says that she is from Mars, and maybe she could settle her debt with sex. She pulls out a joint, and then a staff member at the restaurant calls the Lost Hills Sheriff Station.
So there's a lot of questions in my mind right now. Like, one, why is she there? Why is she at this restaurant? Why is she 45 minutes away from her house? And this is an area that her family claims that she's not familiar with. But as we all know, my parents don't know every place that I go to or places that are familiar to me. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're just not familiar with the fact that she goes to Malibu often.
Right.
But it's very odd that she talks to this valet guy and says, hey, well, is Vanessa here? Okay, so there's a couple things. She's assuming that the valet knows Vanessa. So one of the things that I think is, was she meeting Vanessa as a date? Because she was an open lesbian. Was it a date? Was it just a friend? Or was Vanessa somebody that worked there? And maybe maybe Maitrice actually visited this restaurant multiple times. We don't know that. You know what I mean? And so when he says, well, I don't know who you're talking about.
Or maybe she had the wrong location.
Right.
This is an area she's not familiar with. Maybe she stopped at the wrong restaurant. She's given directions to something and she thinks she's at the right place.
Very possible. And that's why I'd want to know what the cell phone records were before all this, because, what if she's meeting Vanessa that works at a restaurant? And so she goes and stops in the restaurant and thinks, well, I'm just going to go get a table, and my friend works at the restaurant, and she said, come down, meal's on me.
Well, and here's the thing, too, about her interaction with the valet. So there's a lot of red flags there, right? It sounds like everything that she did and said to the valet sounds to be crazy talk. However, if you take away a couple of those actions, some of it's not crazy talk. So had she not sat down in his car, and had she not said anything about Michael Jackson's death, her just asking about a Vanessa would not seem crazy just because he doesn't know who she is.
Yeah.
And second of all, when she says, keep an eye out for a girl with tattoos on her arms, well, that sounds crazy too. However, what if she thought she's meeting a Vanessa and she's just letting the valet know, oh, he doesn't know who I'm talking about. Keep an eye out for the girl with tattoos on her arms. Vanessa has tattoos on her arms.
Right.
So those last two things sound crazy unless you take away the Michael Jackson and the sitting in the vehicle.
Yeah, or like you said, if she's at a restaurant that Vanessa works at, then, she missed one phrase. What if it was, is Vanessa here? I don't know who Vanessa is. The girl with the tattoo. She works here. Then the guy could have said, Vanessa doesn't work here. And then maybe she would realize I'm at the wrong place. Either way, she sits down, and we don't believe that she's there to meet Vanessa, mainly because the hostess says she asked for a table for one.
Right.
But like we all know, they don't make some table where you sit in the corner and just stare at the wall. You can ask for a table for one, but that's really just going to determine how many menus you get, right?
Right.
So, so she asked for a table for one, then she sits down. Now, I find this odd because I'm not one to go over and just talk to a group of people. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could see talking to one person but a group of 7.
Yeah.
And the strange thing here, though, is it sounds like she just went over and sat down and joined in mid-conversation. It's not like she walked over and introduced herself and asked if she could sit down. It sounds like there happened to be an empty seat, and she just went over and took that seat and began talking like she knew the people. Now, the valet did come in at some point and tell the hostess, hey, that girl that came in by herself, she's a little weird. So the staff is on a little bit of heightened awareness of what's going on here. This table of 7, they don't know anything that's weird. They just see this young, good-looking girl that comes over to their table and it sits down and starts talking. She's well-spoken. She has a jovial personality. Mm-hmm. They probably didn't want to kick her off the table, but somebody from the staff did drop by at some point and kind of check in on the table to make sure okay. Is everything okay?
Well, and you worked in a restaurant, and so like, there was probably times that people came up when you had like a kind of weird customer and said, hey, guy at table 7, kind of talking to himself. You know what I mean? Like, just like small talk. Is that what goes down?
Well, the restaurant that I worked in, and I worked there for quite some time, but usually the weird customers were repeat customers, that they would often come in by themselves or just one person.
The regular
with
weirdos.
Them. They were regulars, so you always knew how to handle the situation. So if you saw them talking with another table, you didn't really care because you'd seen them do it 100 times before and you knew they were harmless. They're a bit annoying, but they're harmless. Now, there are 2 different accounts here. When you listen to Maitrice's family talk about how this restaurant thing went down, they explain that they think that maybe she thought that the table was going to buy her dinner. That they believe that she didn't place the order until after she had gone over to the other table, talked with them for a while. Somebody at that table did say something to the fact like, well, aren't you going to eat?
Right.
And they said, well, she being a young, attractive woman might have believed that they were offering to buy her meal.
Yeah.
And so she was under the assumption that they were buying. I kind of take
expensive.
Yeah,
we don't know you.
I kind of take it more as, oh, aren't you going to eat? Like kind of a reminder to go back to your own table, in a very polite way.
Trying to be polite about it. So, but that's also makes sense because when she goes to walk out and they say, "Hey, ma'am, are you going to pay your bill?" She says, "Well, the other table's going to take care of it."
Right.
And so again, this is so strange because she doesn't have her ID on her. She doesn't. On her person, and she doesn't have her wallet. So she has no way of paying, right, on her person. And then there's a couple accounts where it says that some of the staff members offered to pay her bill.
Yeah.
But the manager was like, no. And I wonder if that's just, I hate to say it, but I wonder if that partly is just a race thing.
Well, from what I heard was the manager thought that she was intoxicated because of the way that she was talking. Okay. And he thought that if we pay her bill, well, then they're just the sheriff's department's not going to take her in. Right. And he didn't feel comfortable with her getting in a car and driving off.
Okay.
So he thought he was looking out for her is what he says after the fact, that he wasn't going to let them cover the bill.
Yeah, I buy that some, but what we'll find out later is that, he has her car towed, right? So if you're really trying to help her out, then yeah, you don't mind the cops coming and taking her away, and then she doesn't have to drive because she's drunk, but you're not going to tow her car, so she has to pay the towing fee and the impound lot. But I think a lot of this stuff is hindsight, and he's like, oh, well, I was just trying to help her. Yeah. Right? So, but it's strange. So they offer to pay her bill. He doesn't let her do that. She's acting a little strange, like you said. And I haven't heard any accounts of her fumbling through her pants and a joint falling out.
Well, what I said, she pulls out a joint, but the account I actually heard was that she opened up her pockets to show that she had no money, and in the course of that, a joint fell out. Now, but you mentioned something leading up to that of her pulling out the pockets. Was you had seen something where the account was that she said busted.
Right, yeah.
When she's asked, how are you going to pay for your bill? Or, no, they're not covering your bill. You need to settle up.
And then she said, yeah, I'm busted.
And I actually took it a different way. Rather than, you took it as, oh, well, you caught me. I thought I was slipping out the door and you caught me.
Right.
I actually took it as I'm busted, as in I have no money, and then pull open the pockets to prove that your wallet's busted. You have no money.
Yeah, and it seems like she's kind of just joking around with the staff, trying to get out of it, which I don't know. I mean, I don't see that as being crazy or manic or bipolar or anything. Like, she seems to be like coherent, but like you said, the manager's thinking that she's drunk, right? So now we're waiting for the cops to show up, and I think Maitrice starts taking this a little more serious.
Well, the thing here, just backing up just a second, where she does say that I'm from Mars. Now, that's extremely strange because it doesn't seem like she's working towards solving this issue of there's this unpaid bill. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go say I'm from Mars. I would figure out a way that.
But it's all subliminal, man.
Right, but can I make arrangements for you to pay later? Can we work this out somehow? I do believe.
Yeah, but you also said that she offered sex.
Yeah, but I think that might have been a joke.
I think it was a joke.
Yeah, I think she was kind of joking, like, "Oh, what am I going to do here?"
Yeah. You want me to wash some dishes? You want?
Right.
Yeah, want me to give you a hand job in the lobby?
It sounds strange, but I kind of thought of it as a joke. During the course when they're waiting for the sheriff's department to arrive, the manager says that Maitrice seemed to be confused and almost like she was in some kind of trance from time to time. The sheriff's department, they arrive. They send out some deputies to Geoffrey's to check on the situation. Maitrice is now telling the hostess that she had been watching a soap opera, and God had told her to take the afternoon off.
Wow.
Maitrice said that she had no parents, but she did have a great-grandmother. So the restaurant decides at this point, well, let's call her great-grandmother and ask her if she would like to help out her great-granddaughter and pay the bill. And of course, the great-grandmother answers the phone, and she does want to help out her great-granddaughter. She gave the
credit card information.
Correct.
Well, let me take this over real quick because she gives her credit card information. And this goes back to the idea that this manager he's so helpful. He's just trying to help Maitrice, right? Mm-hmm. So the great-grandmother, which is 80 some years old, says, "Hey, here's my credit card information." And then they say, "Well, we can't take the payment."
Right, because they require a signature.
Right, which I get. But the fact that you want a 80 some year old lady to drive down, which I don't know how far it is away from the great-grandmother, 45 minutes or so. Which again, take the credit card and say, "Hey, look, come in the next few days and sign it, and we're good to go." Also, you could run it as probably a debit or something. There's probably all these different ways. And then the whole thing was that they wanted a fax. They want the grandma to send a fax, and the grandma's like, "Well, I don't got a fax machine."
Right.
So now you have this situation where the bill needs to be paid. The cops are on their way. The grandma can't help out. Maitrice is there by herself, and now the cops are coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's about 9 p.m. when the deputies arrive, and there's 3 of them. So, I mean, this sounds to me like a slow night. You heard the 911 call. It's not, it doesn't sound like she's referred to as there's a guest here and she's refusing to pay her bill.
Yeah.
But the person calling, the waitress or the hostess calling, doesn't seem to be like there's any kind of big commotion going on.
Right.
Or,
she's not violent.
She's not creating a scene.
Right.
So they send 3 of their finest out there. And one of the deputies got on the phone with the great-grandmother and let Mitrice talk to the great-grandmother. And so there is some interaction between Maitrice and her family at this point. It sounds like the great-grandmother kind of gave up, figuring out that she's not going to be able to pay the bill, and figured out that her great-granddaughter is going to have to go to jail for the night. At this point, 2 of the deputies search Maitrice's car. They don't note that they find her cell phone or her wallet. They do note that they found her driver's license and half-empty bottles of booze. So one of the officers, and I guess that he may have been going off of the booze bottles and the cocktail that she ordered at dinner and some of the crazy statements that Maitrice is making. But of course, he says that she is drunk. So at that point, one of the other officers administers a field sobriety test, and then he concludes that she, in fact, is sober. she's not intoxicated.
Right, she passes the field sobriety test.
Then they start asking her other questions like, are you on any medication?
Mm-hmm.
She says no.
Right, because if she's not drunk, then she's either drunk or she's crazy, is what the officers are thinking.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been placed on a 72-hour hold for psychological evaluation?
Right, again, with the crazy.
Yeah, and she says no. So at this point, Maitrice is arrested, and as you said, later the car is towed from the parking lot.
Well, and I heard that they found a less than an ounce of weed. In the center console. Yeah,
it sounded like it was. It didn't sound to me like it was packaged up weed. It sounded like it was like, like maybe you roll a joint and things fall out. It sounded like it was little bits and fragments and debris of marijuana.
Right. I don't know if they'd actually hold those charges or they just drop them later. The fact of the matter is we have a young 24-year-old black female in Malibu that didn't pay her bill, right? They call the cops. The cops can't make her arrest because that's just a misdemeanor. And so it's actually a citizen's arrest on the unpaid bill.
Right, because the restaurant says they will press charges on the unpaid bill.
And I think, again, with her mental state or whatever's going on, the manager probably did not want her to drive. I understand that. The cops show up. They find her ID. They know who it is now, Mitrice Richardson. And we think she's drunk. She passes the test. Mm-hmm. But we got a little bit of weed, but we're still going to take her down to the station. And we'll get back to this case right after this quick beer break. Cheers, everybody. We're back. And where we left off, Maitrice, she didn't pay her bill. The cops came. They gave her a field sobriety test that she passed. And now they took her back to the police station.
Yeah, and her car's been towed as well. And at this point, remember she had called her great-grandmother from the restaurant to see if she would pay the bill?
Yeah.
At this point, the great-grandmother calls Maitrice's mother and tells her what just went down. And that at this time that Maitrice is probably being taken back to the sheriff's department. So Maitrice's mother, her name is Lettice, she calls the sheriff's department. Now, remember, we heard in the trailer there, that's her calling the sheriff's department asking, have you picked up my daughter? Is she in your custody? And they're stating, well, she's en route back to the sheriff's department. And she's also saying, if you guys are going to keep her there overnight, then I'm not going to come down and get her
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel she's safe. Plus, Lettice has a daughter at home that she's caring for and probably doesn't want to wake up the daughter and make the long drive to go pick up her other daughter.
Yeah, I want to say it's about 60 miles away.
Once Maitrice is back at the sheriff's department, she's in sheriff's custody at this point, she is granted her phone call or phone calls. The only number that Maitrice has memorized is her great-grandmother. This was the person that was called at the restaurant. A logbook shows that Maitrice called her great-grandmother or at least tried to call her 4 times. Maitrice is overheard talking on the phone, but Mildred, which is the great-grandmother, insists that she never spoke to Maitrice once she was at the station. These phone calls were placed on a non-recording line. The payphone, which records outgoing phone calls, was broken at the time of Maitrice's detainment. So she's calling on this phone that does not record anything, and the grandmother is saying, we didn't speak to her that night once she has been arrested.
I have no reason to not believe her grandmother.
Right.
Again, I mean, well, based off the age, we could, assume that maybe the grandma doesn't remember, but this is such a big thing because she goes missing. And this is such a big ordeal for the family that I do believe that she didn't call her. So Maitrice was calling somebody. And that's the big red flag to me, was who the hell was she calling?
Well, just to address that real quick, as you said, I believe the great-grandmother as well, because the great-grandmother, she repeats later on the conversation she had with Maitrice at the restaurant when Maitrice called from the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it was not a very friendly conversation from the great-grandmother's perspective.
No.
She basically said, they're going to take your black ass to jail. Well,
that
she's old
like
school.
My grandma.
That's what my grandma would have said, the same thing verbatim. But
should say, Nick, they're going to take your black ass to jail.
Well, I think Mildred here is sharp as a tack, is what I'm getting at. And she does not fumble on having the conversation with Maitrice at the restaurant. She is saying she may have called somebody 4 times. She did not call me. But here's what I think happened here, Captain. I think that maybe the great-grandmother, that might be the only number that she did have memorized.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that she may have just been pretending to talk into the phone. I don't know the setup there, but if you're not behind bars or given her state of mind, I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, given her state of mind, I mean, again, there's speculation that she, hints of some kind of mental illness, bipolar, maybe she's manic. So, yeah, maybe she is sitting there talking to the phone, and that would, with evidence that she was crazy, but you'd have to be crazy just to be sitting there talking to nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, here's the other. It's a bit of the perfect storm, and we're going to see this from time to time again in this case. Mm-hmm. She happens to be arrested on a night where the regular phone does not work. It's not working. It's not recording the conversation. It's the perfect storm. It's another big question. Like you said, so many questions. Here's a question I have. Mm-hmm. Okay. L.A. County is one of the largest jurisdictions in the United States. I think it's the second or the third largest. So we're not talking about some podunk operation here, right? This is supposed to be one of the better operations in the country.
We're not talking about a garage-based podcast.
This is also a case that took place in 2009. Okay. Can we at least get up to speed? Can we get into the present here? And what I mean by that is there are so many of us walking around right now that do not have phone numbers memorized. We just don't memorize them anymore.
Right.
It's kept in this magic little box that's in your pocket or your pocketbook, and it's with you at all times, and it has all of your contacts in there.
Well, one of the faults of the deputies is when they arrest her, they do not, they find her ID so they know who she is, but they do not find her wallet, and they do not find her cell phone. And if they would have found those two things, then I believe that they should put that with her.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to, as a country, and these big counties, these big jurisdictions like this should be the ones to lead the way. This needs to become a part of regular procedure when somebody is abducted or somebody is arrested. That they are asked, do you have a cell phone or do you have access to one? Now, I'm saying within reason. It shouldn't be like, oh, I was arrested 10 miles away and my cell phone's at home. We have to go retrieve it.
Right.
No, but if she says my cell phone's in my car, or if someone insists that their cell phone is somewhere within a reasonable distance, that they obtain that because you are supposed to be granted a phone call or a phone calls. And whom are you supposed to call if you don't know any phone numbers?
Right. I totally understand. I get that, but it's tough because it's like there's a part of me that feels for the cops. You're dealing with this individual that is saying some stuff. I mean, I'm revenging the death of Michael Jackson. The other thing, what did she say to the valet driver again?
It's subliminal?
Yeah, it's subliminal. So who knows what she's saying to them? And then, so did she even tell them, hey, my wallet, and my cell phone are in the car?
It's a little strange to me, though, that they note that they find her ID, that they note that they find marijuana, and that they find half empty bottles of booze. I like to think of them as half full, but that's just me. But they don't note that they find her cell phone or her purse or her wallet.
Right.
It sounds like a very cluttered car. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. So I can understand that they may not have found it, but what's the procedure here? If you are following procedure, if you find a little bit of drugs, aren't you supposed to search that car pretty hardcore?
Right.
Wouldn't you think so? That's
yeah, you think.
And not only that, you're picking up a girl and you're not really sure why you're arresting her. You know what I mean?
Right.
We know
it's a citizen's arrest.
Right. We know she didn't pay her bill, but you can't figure out why she's talking the way that she's talking. She's not drunk. She's not on medication, according to her, and she's never been checked for psychological problems, according to her.
Well, that's the other thing, though, too, is like the family really goes after the police department saying, hey, you guys should be more well aware of her condition. Well, the problem is that you're meeting Maitrice for the first time. So when you're hearing crazy talk, you don't know what the baseline is. You don't know how she normally is. So it's kind of hard to say, well, she's acting crazy because you don't know what her, some people just act crazy all the time. You know how many times that cops, nurses, and people like that, that deal with the public and that are servants to the public have to deal with people that are intoxicated, people that have alcoholism, people that have mental problems. and they're just so used to this, So how are they supposed to know? How are they supposed to know what Maitrice is normally like?
Yeah, but I think I'm going at this from actually a benefit to...
No. Yeah. So I agree with you on the idea they should have found the cell phone. And then once they find the cell phone, they should have brought it to the department.
Right,
so
and I want to be clear
call.
why I'm bringing this up, because I think this is actually a benefit not just to the person you're detaining, but also a benefit to the police department as well.
Right.
If you take this person back and they have no one to call, who's going to pay this bail? Who's going to pick up this person? This person may become your problem for a much more extended period of time than it needs to be. And if that person has a phone directory of persons that are supposed to know them and care about them, then hopefully they get picked up safely and a bail gets paid in a timely manner, and all these things can happen so that this person doesn't end up being your problem. Well, here's what happened though. The Lost Hills Sheriff's Department, they figured out how not to make this their problem, right? Because at a little after midnight, this is 12:15 a.m.
Okay, so how many hours after?
So she's the sheriff's deputies arrived around 9 p.m. So she's en route shortly after that time.
Okay.
So this is after midnight, 12:15 a.m. on Thursday, September 17th, 2009.
Right.
This is according to several accounts here. Jailer Sharon Cummings released Mitrice Richardson. Now, as you had said, this is about 40 miles from her home with no phone, no money, and no transportation. Cummings says that Maitrice refused the offer to stay in the lobby and wait for a ride, saying that Maitrice said she was going to meet some friends.
Right.
Now, we do have to talk about this for...
Well, let me, before we move on, I want a definitive answer from you. Who do you think she was talking to? Is it just a big question mark for you, or do you think she was just talking to herself?
I think she might have been talking to a dial tone. I think she may have called her great grandmother's number and nobody picked up, and maybe there's no voicemail set up there, and she was just talking to the ringing phone. And I don't think it's either a sign of her having a mental break or buying some time for whatever reason. Or to buy another phone call. Sometimes they're very strict about the amount of phone calls they give you, unless you seem to be putting together actions to get you released, where you might be able to manipulate the situation a little bit and say, okay, well, I just talked to my great grandmother. She's going to make arrangements with so-and-so and so-and-so, and she told me to call back.
Okay, yeah.
It could be a bit of an acting job is what I'm getting at. Yeah,
it's weird though, but to me, when you're offered by, the deputy offers you a place to stay, again, who knows? We only have one side of the story. There's three sides to the story. There's Maitrice's, and then there's the deputies, and then there's the truth somewhere in the middle, but we don't have Maitrice's side. And so she's offered to stay. She doesn't stay, which then makes me wonder, was she actually talking to somebody in Malibu? And was she often in Malibu? And was she there to actually meet a Vanessa? And was she on the phone to Vanessa? But she was saying it was my I'm calling my grandmother. Well, you say my grandmother because then they're going to give you more calls. But if you say you're meeting Vanessa or your date or your girlfriend or whatever you're saying, then maybe they don't give you as many calls. So anyways, we're at the point where they let her go. And this is like 12:30 something, right?
12:15. And the later, much later after the fact, the sheriff's department would go out of their way to bring up that Sharon Cummings is an African-American woman, because, they're going to have to defend themselves later because they're releasing an African-American woman. So I think they wanted to really make that clear to everybody. It was an African-American woman that was working the jail that night. But there's other deputies there too. It's not just the Sharon Cummings show. There's other people there making these determinations as whether to release somebody or not release somebody. Now, the deputies would say that, once we got her back to the sheriff's department, we found that she was well-spoken and that she seemed to be aware of her surroundings and aware of the situation and what was going on. So we decided, because she's an adult and she wanted to leave, we couldn't make her stay and wait for a ride from her mother.
Right.
So we had to let her go. I have several problems with this. Okay. What the hell happened between being picked up at 9 p.m. and midnight that made you go from this chick is crazy to, oh, she's well-spoken and she knows what the heck's going on, let's go ahead and release her?
Well, and what we were talking about earlier is we have this idea that these deputies show up, the 3 deputies, because it's a slow night. Mm-hmm. But then we give her a field sobriety test because we think that she's drunk or she's crazy. Well, she passed the test, so she's probably not drunk. So then she's probably crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really the transfer of power. When they have her in custody and then they hand over the custody of Mitrice to the actual jail, then it's on the jail. And did the deputies not speak up to the jail enough? And I'm not, look, I mean, you have to file a report and all that stuff. But when you're transferring the person, what was that conversation like? Mm-hmm. Because did that conversation happen and then the jailers just go, well, we're going to let her sit here and see what happens? Because if there wasn't much of a conversation, right, and there wasn't this much of an interaction and there was not hey, this girl's acting a little crazy, well, then you put her in a cell and for 3 hours she just kind of paces around in the cell. It is odd.
Which is understandable, but what's your point?
When they transferred custody, did they provide the information correctly? And if the jail was provided that information, what made them overturn that information? Because the protocol would be, well, let's put her on a watch and then she won't be able to be released until a doctor, and it's a Wednesday. So that there's a doctor going to be coming in on that Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday morning.
Right, and then they get psych evaluated and it covers your ass. But again, it's miscommunication and handing over custody.
So Maitrice has been released by the sheriff's department, and then at 5:35 a.m., her mother calls back to the sheriff's department. Now let's play that clip.
Lasco Sheriff Station, Ojeda, can I help you?
Yes, good morning. My name is Mitrice Richardson. I'm calling to follow up on my daughter who was brought in last night around 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay, let me transfer you to the jailer. Hold on, please.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rockville Station, Baumgartner.
Yes, hi. My name is Mitrice Richardson. I called not too long ago regarding my daughter, Mitrice Richardson. How long before a missing persons report can be filed? Is it 24 or 48 hours?
That's normal. Well, it depends on the circumstances, but I didn't take your call, so I'm not familiar with it. Did she just not return home after going out?
She was arrested last night. This is the first time she's been arrested. She's in an unknown area that she's never been in. She's without a vehicle. Nobody can find her.
And where was this at? Where was she arrested at?
Your facility. Her name is Mitrice Richardson.
Okay. Do you know if she's here now, or was she released?
They said she was released.
Okay. And what time was she released?
At just shortly after 12 a.m.
Yeah. Normally, I wouldn't recommend doing one that soon.
Right. What is the time frame?
I guess probably 24 hours would be reasonable. I mean, if there would be some mitigating factors, where you would suspect maybe something, not right.
She doesn't know the area. She's never been in your area before.
Where does she live?
She is unfamiliar with that area.
Do you think she possibly could have gotten a bus home?
No. Listen, my child has never ridden a bus.
Okay.
No.
Right.
She would not know how to ride a bus.
I would probably wait till, early this morning, and if she doesn't turn up, you can certainly call. I don't suspect anything bad happened.
I'm concerned because, well, first of all, I thought they were going to keep her overnight because she was highly intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
Something is obviously going on with her.
Have you talked to the jailer?
Yes, I have. He said he tried to get her to stay, but because she was an adult, they had to let her go. I believe that she is highly depressed, and she's in a depressive state.
It could be possible that maybe there's a lot of options and a lot of possibilities, and I don't think all of them would be, something dire. But I can certainly understand your fears, being your daughter and all that.
Well, I think she's depressed. That's what has me
Is
more
that what?
frightened.
That's worried you more than just her. Okay.
That and the fact that she's in an area where she doesn't know where she's at.
Yeah. Does she take medication at all?
No, I believe it's a state that she's in right now because of just the weird activities that's been going on.
What's her name? What's her name?
Her name is Mitrice Richardson.
Okay. And your name, ma'am?
Latisse.
Okay, Latisse. Here's what I want you to do. Why don't you wait a couple hours and give us some time to I'll go back and talk to the jailer and try and get a timeline of when she was released and, make sure she's not asleep in our lobby or anything like that. And then once you give us a call back in a couple hours, if she hasn't shown up or made contact with you, then maybe we can do something for you, okay?
And with that phone call, you can really hear the emotion going through the mother, and her gut feeling is saying that there's something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't know where her daughter is. She knows that the daughter's been released. She called while the daughter was in transit to the sheriff's department, and she even says, as long as you guys are not going to, let her out, because it's crazy out here. People get, she could get her head chopped off, right. I think is what she says.
Yeah.
And so you hear the concern and how scared she is, but I will say one thing that I commend her on is she keeps her composure. She's talking to the officer in a respectful manner, asking him questions for his advice. I think that
Maitrice was a well-spoken lady, and it stems from her family. It seems like her family is of I don't want to say high intelligence, but they're definitely intellectual.
And they carry themselves in a professional manner,
exactly.
from what I've seen. And as we heard here on this phone call, she's in probably the worst situation, the worst day she could ever have. Right. Her daughter's missing, and she's still being respectful of the officer and asking his opinion on when is it the proper time to file the missing persons report.
Yeah, and the proper time is now.
Yeah,
for
the officer. For her, she doesn't know any better. You know what I mean?
Right.
I get what you're saying. As a parent, you should push the envelope. But I think what we're seeing here is I put myself in her shoes because I can be forward when I need to be. But at the same time, I do start off every conversation in a respectful manner and try to be nice to because I want I always go into everything as, how can I help you to help me? Kind of thing.
Right.
I don't want to come in there aggressively saying, you got to do this, you got to do that, because they might not follow through. The only thing is the disconcerting thing here is with the officer, Bumgardner. He can understand that she's distressed. And he says he's going to go back and talk to the jailer and he's going to work on these things. I don't doubt that he's going to do these, and maybe I'm reading him the wrong way. I just hate when I hear the sheriff's department, and I say them particularly because I've experienced this in my own life in a much less severe situation, but I've seen a lot of passing the buck with some of these sheriff's departments where it's always like, I mean, he keeps saying, well, why don't you call back in a couple hours? Well, is his shift over soon? Is this is 5:35. If it's anything like Columbus,
his shift's over about 7.
It should be a 7. If they do things the
call
way
back in a couple hours when I don't have to deal with you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and this sounds like a lot of paperwork.
Well, but time and time again, it's mother's intuition is normally not wrong, and she has this gut feeling that's saying, "Hey, something's not right." One, it's weird that she went to this restaurant. I don't understand the area. I don't understand why she didn't have money to pay for this, right? This is not like her. She's talking crazy talk. Okay, I don't know what the hell's going on. Are you going to keep her? No. Okay, good. Because if you're going to keep her, awesome. Because I don't want her head chopped off.
Right.
And, you let her go? What the fuck? Right? I just got done talking to you and said, don't let her go. And that's the issue, because like I said, the transfer of power of custody when the deputies took her in, and then on top of that you have a mother going, this is added character. And I think if she would have said certain words, well, I'm very concerned, maybe she's depressed, maybe she's suicidal. If she would have said certain words,
she would have said suicidal, that could have been big. Yeah,
it could have been big, but I'm not going to put the fault on the mother.
No.
She is trying to be respectful of the sheriff department, right? She's trying to be respectful. She's not going, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that. And they constantly, well, let's have you call back again.
Well, I like here, and when I say like, I mean I'm being sarcastic here, but she asked, when can I file a missing persons report? Do you have to wait 24 hours or 48 hours? Yeah. And his answer is, well, that's usually the case unless there's other mitigating factors. Well, guess what, officer? The mother calling you is that mitigating factor that you're talking about.
And you can hear her breaking up. You can hear her choking up. And what's the worst thing that can happen? You released her. She's in an area she's not familiar with, and they're going, what's the worst thing that can happen? Hey, we should probably just pick her up. Let's put out a couple squads or units, right? Put out a couple units. It's a Wednesday. It can't be that busy. You sent 3 deputies over for a girl not paying her bill for a citizen's arrest.
Right.
Put out a couple units to look for
that Thursday morning.
If we find her, bring her back, and her mother will come and pick her up in a couple hours. And all this stuff could be, all this whole tragedy could have been avoided if they would have just got off their ass and did a couple things. And that brings us to the next thing. So then we have this report about a prowler on some property.
Yeah, so they received that call from Matrice's mother at 5:35 a.m., and then less than an hour later at 6:30 a.m., they receive this phone call.
Malibu Sheriff Station Office, can I help you?
Yeah, hi. Hey, this is Smith at Cold Canyon. We had a prowler walking around through the backyard here, but we don't know what the situation was. I don't know if you have a unit in the area. It might do a little drive-by or something.
Okay, where's this at?
This is Cold Canyon, like hot and cold in Malibu. But it's in the back of the house, which is right where Wood Bluff hits Cold Canyon. And we just had a strange woman walking through the backyard here. It's a fairly large property, and she was sitting on the steps right in the back of the house here. This is kind of a circular driveway, and the gates were closed, so we don't know where this woman came from.
You said the cross was Wood Bluff?
Yeah, that's right. There's a horse trail, hiking trail access through here, but we've never had this kind of thing happen before.
What'd she look like? White, black, Hispanic?
A tall, slim black woman with afro hair.
How tall?
Well, she was sitting down, stretched out on the wooden steps in the back of the house. Hard to tell, but she looked like she might have been medium to slightly tall, with a big afro hair, very skinny. And I think she was wearing maybe jeans or tight pants with a T-shirt.
You've never seen her there before?
No, never. Nobody ever does that. I mean, the people hike on the trail all the time. The trail goes through our property, but we leave it open on purpose because it's kind of a nice thing for horses and people.
And you said she's laying across she was laying across the steps, or?
She was sitting kind of sprawled out on these wooden steps in the back of the house, right against the back of the house.
She's since got up and left?
She's since gone, yeah. She's been gone about 5 minutes now, but as we thought it over, we thought maybe a little drive-by wouldn't be a bad idea.
And what direction was she last seen headed?
Never saw her. Once she left, she just disappeared. I moved from one window to another. I said to her, I hollered down, "Are you all right?" And she said, "I'm just resting," or something like that. But she's certainly gone out of her way to get to that close to the house because the hiking trail is not that close. It's on the ridge.
All right, well, since we haven't checked the area for her.
Appreciate that very much.
Not a problem, sir.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
So that is Bill Smith. He's a retired KTLA reporter. That's the guy that calls in reporting the prowler. And he lives in Monte Nido, which is about 6 miles west of the sheriff's station. I do want to clear one thing up because he's a little muffled at the end there, and it's a little confusing what he's talking about. But at one point he says that he opened up his window to ask the woman if she was okay, and she says something like, "I'm just resting."
Right.
And that's when he said he went to another window to try to get a better look, and during that time she had left. She had left the property. So where he says, "I don't know, I never saw her," that's what he's referencing.
Right. He never saw her the second time he went to look for her.
Right. He saw her there. He didn't see which direction she left.
These dispatchers crack me up, though, because every time somebody says something, they're like, "What was that again?"
Yeah, well, it's like the first part of the phone call. They greet you, but you have to prove to them reason for them to continue the phone call. You know what
Right,
I mean?
but we see this happen twice when he goes, well, I'm here, and then we got a prowler. Where are you at? Where are you at? And then when the mother is talking to the one dispatcher and says, I'm calling about my daughter, Mitrice Richardson, and he's like, who are you talking about?
Well, not only that, I think when Letice is on the phone, the call we heard, the mother, I believe that she's actually speaking with a detective or an officer. It's not just a dispatcher at that point. That Bumgardner guy is an officer of some form.
Right.
He's not just some dude paid to answer the phone.
Like maybe when you answer the phone, have a pad by you. Don't pull a Nick and not pay attention when people talk.
I'm not in public service. These people are in public service.
You are in public service. This podcast is a public service. You need to listen.
We should point out, though, that it's not 100% verified that this is actually Maitrice.
Right, but we can assume.
The vague description that's given, it matches her very well.
Yeah. And when you see her mugshot of that night, her hair is kind of, it's not an afro. I mean, look, I'm a white dude from the suburbs, so I have no African American hairstyle expert. But it's kind of disheveled. It's like, it's not, I wouldn't consider it an afro, but this white reporter is going, wow, here's this black lady. She's middle to tall. She has tight pants. Of course, it's such a man thing. Well, I noticed that her pants were tight.
Well, if you look up pictures of Maitrice, now she did pageants. So she's attractive, and most of the pictures you will see of her, she's pretty well done up. Now, if you see the arresting photo from that night, her hair is quite poofed out compared to the pageant pictures.
Right.
And I can only imagine that if that's what her hair looked like around midnight, let's say, now she's been released, and let's assume here, because we don't know for certain, but let's assume that she made that 5.5-6 mile hike to Bill Smith's backyard on foot. If that hair was pretty poofed out before then, well, it might be full, Diana Ross afro at some point.
Right,
I don't know.
No, but at the end of the day, she has jeans on. This prowler has jeans on. It's an African American lady. It's slender. And it's not tall.
Medium to tall.
Right, and she has a black shirt on, which we know that Maitrice had a Bob Marley black T-shirt. So we could just assume that it's more likely her.
Yeah, I think I feel good saying about 90% that it's her.
And one of the things that come up over and over in this case is that people say that this call is fishy. And the reason why they say this is fishy is the way that the way he talks to the officer, as if he's done this before. So a lot of people say, well, this guy was probably a retired officer, or if it is this conspiracy and that this sheriff's department is in charge of this girl going missing, and they're they're responsible for everything that happened to her. What they're saying is that they think this call was like a part of the conspiracy, and that this was actually a police officer on duty. Well, we know that it was a reporter, and that's probably why the lingo is coming out the way it is, because he is a reporter. And how much has a reporter dealt with law enforcement?
Yeah, especially if he was a field reporter. He might be used to being in situations of stressful situations. Plus, he also says that there's trail access right by the house there. And that, so you often see hikers or people on horseback on this trail. So even though he said we've never had somebody in the backyard like this before, it wouldn't be crazy for him to think, well, this is not really a prowler. This might just be somebody that came off the trail, and they might be experiencing exhaustion or something like that. And that's probably why he opened up the window and said, hey, are you okay? And then when she doesn't seem to go anywhere, then, at first that's when he's probably like, well, we might want to have a squad car, just do a drive-by.
Yeah, and I think it was safety for the neighborhood, but I think it was also safety for this individual.
I think you're right.
Like here's this walking path, and maybe this person came off, but there are walking paths, so it's not super uncommon. Now the question is, if it is her, how did she get 6 miles away? Now the average person can walk a mile in about 15 minutes. Right. So that puts her at about an hour and a half to get that length, and we're talking roughly about 6 hours.
Yeah.
roughly about 6 hours afterwards. So that's about the time, or that would be. So we'd
the
have
time doesn't match up.
No, the time doesn't match up. So what I'm saying is that we have this gap.
But
was she walking on these trails, and that's how she got to this neighborhood?
A good portion of that travel would have been conducted in the dark, first off. And second of all, this is an area that, especially on foot, she's not going to know where she's going.
Right.
You know, we've heard her mother say that she does not know Malibu, that Mitrice doesn't know Malibu. She's not from there. This is an area unfamiliar to her. Well, on the streets, there's street signs and things to help direct you, even if you don't know the area. If she's on foot and wandering around, and again, we don't know that her state of mind at this time, it's very well that it could have taken her 5 hours, 6 hours to get to this point. The other thing too is, how long was she sitting there or lying there until Bill noticed her outside?
Yeah. What if she could have made it through those trails and onto this property, within, let's say, 2 hours, and then she was sleeping.
Right. Because Bill could have been asleep the whole time and never noticed her. Maybe he wakes up at 6:15 and just spotted her at 6:30.
And he says sprawled out. But so my gut feeling is it's her.
Me too. The strange thing here is that he does more than once say how close she is to the house. And that's what he found strange. That maybe it wouldn't be so strange for somebody to wander into his backyard, but he's saying she came really close to the house to be up on those steps.
Well, like we know with the whole valet thing, I mean, she got into a valet's car. I mean, that's talking about invading personal space. So I feel like based off that evidence, again, my gut feeling, it is Maitrice.
Me too. Now, a few days later, the sheriff's department conducts their first search, but they start the search at Bill Smith's house. This is one thing that I thought interesting that a reporter brought up, because they were using scent dogs to sniff out and try to track Maitrice from Bill Smith's house, right?
Yeah.
Now, this reporter brought up a good thing that I wouldn't have thought of on my own here, but they suggested, why wouldn't you have the dogs start off at the sheriff's department? Because she left there on foot. She had no vehicle. If you would have had the scent dogs trace her from the sheriff's department, you would be able to make the determination, most likely, whether she had actually left on foot or if she was picked up in a vehicle.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know, but of course they didn't do it in that fashion. They started the dogs off at Bill Smith's house, and they did find they did discover what appeared to be sneaker prints in the front yard, and they're guessing these would have been Maitrice's footprints. And they say it appeared that she had been running. I'm guessing maybe the footprints are further apart than you would expect for walking. There's some way they could probably determine the movement of the person creating those prints. But they say it appears that she had been running. Now, remember, this area is filled with horse trails. So eventually they lose these tracks. They lose the footprints amongst all of the horse tracks.
Well, not only the horse tracks, but this is also a walking path. So basically all the tracks combined, it just got too much where it's lost.
So if it is Maitrice, we don't know if at that point if she got in a vehicle or if those tracks were just simply stamped out by the horses.
Right. And what we don't know is, did she get in a vehicle to get to this neighborhood? Right. If we're assuming that this was her, the AKA prowler, then did she get there by foot or did she get there by a vehicle? And then did she know the person in the vehicle, or did she was she able to hitch a ride? Because like we said, she's an attractive female. There's probably a lot of guys that would be willing to give her, a ride.
Oh yeah.
So then she's there. But again, if you would have followed the scent dogs from the police department, we'd have a little more clarity on that.
Well, let's talk about LAPD here, because the actual fact of the investigation is that because Maitrice lived in LA, LAPD was put in charge of the actual investigation of her missing persons.
Well, that's the first problem.
So LAPD found, amongst other items, and they went and searched her vehicle, and they found these items amongst others. They found her ATM card, a checkbook, and cell phone in the car. They also found journals, and after reviewing, yeah, that's the word. So yeah, they reviewed the journals, and there's
several days. And what they did too, which I thought was pretty fascinating, was they went back through her MySpace, which that's dating this case a little bit. I think she held on to the MySpace account a little too long, but MySpace and Facebook and any social media. So they basically took the journal entries and then looked at entries online and to try to, and what they realized was there's so many journal entries and so many social media that they started questioning, was she even sleeping properly?
Right. Right. And they're able to determine that from the journals as well. They conclude that she may have been sleep deprived for several days leading up to that day. And it's quite possible that she had suffered a bipolar episode that night.
Now, just to be clear, that bipolar is a very difficult thing. It's one of the most mental illnesses that it's a misdiagnosed, bipolar is. And so, and normally to get a clear, concise bipolar diagnosis, it normally takes years. So she is not being treated for this.
Right.
This is just speculation that this stuff was going on and that maybe she was in a manic or a hypermanic state. And so by being in this state, you will be sleep deprived because you will just be turning, your wheels are turning.
Now, we're going to start to see a lot of back and forth from the sheriff's department with the family, with the Richardson family, because the Richardson family don't feel like the sheriff's department has done their job. They don't think that they should have released their daughter,
right?
And they want answers from the sheriff's department, and they're not overwhelmingly, giving these answers. Don't seem to be working the case to the satisfaction of the Richardsons.
I mean, what's your stance on that? I mean, I agree that they probably shouldn't have released her based on her actions at the restaurant, based on what the deputies thought, and then when they transfer the power, I just think that was the first fumble here, and they should just not have released her.
I'm with you. The thing I keep going back to is their statements saying why they released her. We let her go. There was no reason to keep her. She was well-educated, well-spoken, and she was fully aware of her environment and her situation. Again, I keep going back to how different that account is. For me to say she's well-spoken, she knows of her environment, yet 3 hours ago she was saying complete nonsense to the point where we thought she was heavily intoxicated. Then we found out she's not intoxicated. Then we have to ask her, are you on medication? Have you ever been locked up for psychological problems? So that's your assessment 3 hours before, either drunk, medicated, or psycho, some kind of medical issue, mental issue.
Right.
And then 3 hours later, she's perfectly normal, perfectly happy, normal human being. Send her off into the darkness. That's the big problem.
And like I said, in defense of them, it always comes back to me on that they don't know her baseline. They don't know what her normal is.
Right.
So then when you start hearing some clarity coming from her, you're just, and again, but I'd still argue that if anybody's looked up much about hypermanic or manic states, that people become very capable of doing what they want to do. It's almost like the crazy takes over to make you look a certain way so you can get out of this. And like you said, maybe she's talking to herself on the phone. I mean, who knows?
Well, and you said the sheriff's department, they don't know her norm. They don't know how she would normally behave. But guess who would? Her family would. And her family wants to know.
Well, her mom was calling and telling you this is not normal.
Well, right, but her family wants to know, okay, you've said your reasoning for letting her go. Okay, now we know that the jails are typically under surveillance. We want to see the video footage of her that evening because we want to see how she was acting.
Yeah.
We want to see if she was behaving abnormally so we can get an idea of what we think happened to our daughter. Do we think she went wandering off on her own, or did she leave the sheriff's department and get picked up by some evil dude? And so they're told there is no videotape. They are told that there is no videotape.
So this sheriff's department, their jail, their phone that records the phone calls and their log, that's broken.
Right.
And they don't have cameras. Yeah,
here's the exact wording. They were told no such video existed. The captain of the sheriff's department, Captain Martin, was quoted in the Malibu Surfside News as saying There is no video or tape of any kind. Well, that's pretty darn black and white here, right? Now, Captain, you can't confuse that statement in any way, right?
No.
He said there is no videotape, no video or no tape of any kind.
Mm-hmm. So let's make this clear. There are videos. They're claiming that there's video cameras in the jail, but those are just to monitor. Those don't actually record.
Well, we don't know exactly what they're there for because according to his statement, all he says is there's no videotape of any kind.
Right.
Now, but yeah, there clearly are cameras in this facility.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, are they just using them to monitor live action or are they using them to record anything? The problem here, though, is he makes that statement very clear. And what's the strangest part of it is in January of 2010, the same person, Captain Martin, then confesses that there was a tape and it is in his desk.
Okay, well, but let's break this down. This is how it happened. So Maitrice's mother and aunt are in a meeting, and they ask for the tape. Hey, there has to be a tape. These cameras can't just be for monitoring, right? This doesn't add up. And they're still, during this meeting, no, we have no tape. Mm-hmm. And then the aunt won't let it go. Proud of her for doing that. She won't let it go. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of this conversation, the guy goes, oh, by the way, we do have a tape.
And it's not just a guy, it's the captain.
Right. And
he's in charge of that that building.
Well, and on top of that, on top of all this, it's in my desk.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not a red flag of we're trying to cover some shit up, I don't know what a red flag is, right?
Well, do you know what that kind of honesty will get you?
Promoted, obviously.
Yes, it will get you a promotion. Later that same month, Captain Martin was promoted to commander.
No captain friend of mine.
Now, this promotion moved him to the Monterey Park location. So his old post at Lost Hills, he lived just minutes away for the entire 6 years that he was in charge of the Lost Hills Sheriff Station. The promotion took him an hour away, and he was replaced by Joseph Stephen, who, note, is the first African-American captain at the Lost Hills location. Due to technical difficulties, it was about 3 months later before the Richardson family was allowed to view the video that was sitting in Captain Martin's desk. So I want to point a few things out here.
Yeah, there's a bunch of red flags. Point them out for me.
Well, I want to cover my own butt here real quick, too. I don't want to give the impression that Joseph Stephen is not capable of being the captain of the Lost Hills Sheriff Department. Okay? I think he can. I think it's a little convenient that you replaced him, that you replaced Captain Martin with an African-American man. Might be. Does this sound a little bit like the Catholic Church that takes a priest that's under suspicion and ships him off elsewhere? Mm-hmm. A little bit. I think that the sheriff's department was really not trying to help the family or the investigation. I think they were just covering their own butts here.
Constantly. Well, and then it also leads to the idea that if there's this technical difficulty, so we have the tape, and then, by the way, it's in my desk, but by the way, you can't watch it for months and months.
For 3 months.
Because, we're going to pay some college interns to come in and doctor up this video. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is fucking strange.
After the video is released to the family, the family
3 months afterwards,
the family states that Maitrice looked to be distressed and agitated. They also commented that the video footage appeared to have been edited, and they're citing one part here is that 1 second there's a. Mm-hmm. On the footage, there's 1 second where Maitrice is holding a piece of paper. And in the very next second, the paper is crumbled up on the floor. Mm-hmm. The video, so, you want to know what happened between the time she's holding the paper and then it's crumbled up on the floor. And the video also shows Maitrice walking out of the station, and 2 minutes later, a deputy goes out an adjacent door. The department refused to release the name of that deputy.
Of course, they refused to release the name of that deputy. They got to wait 3 months and they gotta doctor up his name, and they gotta get. I mean, this case it's just question after and red flags, and is the cops involved or are they just incompetent douchebags? I'm not really for sure, but there is a lot to get more into this case, and you just want to stick around, and we'll knock out another.
Sounds
episode.
good. Sure.
All right. Do we have a recommended reading for this episode?
We do. The case we're talking about tonight comes from California, so I picked a book from California, another California case. This is The Zodiac Unmasked, and this is The Identity of America's Most Elusive Serial Killer Revealed by Robert Graysmith. And according to the New York Press, it's by far the best book on the subject of the Zodiac murders. It's one of my favorite as well. So check out The Zodiac Unmasked by Robert Graysmith.
Yeah.
And you can do that by going to truecrimegarage.com and click on the recommended page. We have all of our books listed there as well as a couple of videos. Just click on the Amazon banner and pick up anything you want through Amazon, including our recommended reading.
All right, hold on. I'm coming back. And a big thank you to everybody that tells a friend, anybody that shares it on social media. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. And so we might, like we said, we'll just stick around and we'll release this episode. We'll do 2 parts this week.
That's right. We will see you back here in the garage tomorrow. Until then, be good, be kind, and don't litter.